Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today we have 3 stories for you, including the story of how a manager's promotion led to his downfall. Here we go. Charity's greed causes loss of funds. Years ago, I was on the Charitable Funds Committee at my workplace. We collected money from employees via monthly payroll deduction, and at the end of the year, we would split what we collected among 5 popular charities, with half the money going to a particular international charity that supports other charities. I will call this charity Unworthy Wankers for this story. Unworthy Wankers were known to have pretty high admin fees, which never sat right with me. They also demanded we cut them a check early each year, prorated, to coincide with their fundraiser, rather than wait till the end of the year when we cut the checks for the other charities. One year, a representative from Unworthy Wankers came to see our committee during their yearly fundraising blitz. We thought they would share inspirational stories about their organization's successes and perhaps thank us for the tens of thousands of dollars we collected for them each year. But oh no, that was not the purpose of this visit. They raked us over the coals, telling us we're not doing our part for a company of our size, and insisted we revisit how we distribute our funds. They were rude and demanding, and I left that meeting absolutely PO'd. So I decided to suggest to our committee that we take their advice and revisit our process on fund distribution. We subsequently changed our process, and instead of distributing the collected money to 5 charities, we started allowing each employee to donate to any registered charity of their choice. It was a lot more work for our committee to administer, but it was worth it. Turns out very few employees chose Unworthy Wankers for their charity. The majority chose other charities, resulting in Unworthy Wankers losing tens of thousands of dollars, which they never received from us again. Let's just say the next year when their rep came to see us, I was delighted to tell them we took their advice and revisited our process, and now we were letting our employees choose exactly where their donations went. Sadly, just a small number chose Unworthy Wankers. It was hard not to smile when I told them this year's donation would be a few $100s, not the $30,000 they were so disappointed with last year. And our second story. The time I got my manager a promotion, so he quit. This is a lot of background to explain the kind of situation that developed over a decade. A place that was once truly fun to work at and easy to earn a bit of extra overtime became a dog-eat-dog struggle to survive. The low-level peons like me were split between those who felt disenfranchised and hated by management, those that were basically looking for an escape route, and that group of snakes that would smile to your face and act sympathetic to your situation before sneaking away to inform the managers of anything they had learned which might have value. We were in a specific area of the business that was isolated and slowly being replaced by technology, so from over 1,000 in our building, it dropped to just around 250 when I left. Most of this was done through voluntary redundancy, but the managers were given incentive to fire as many people as possible to save money on VR. Since manager jobs were also slowly being cut, they were desperate to fire as many as possible, but most were incapable of following procedure. Mike was that intelligent and brutal kind of manager who, like the others, had been promoted into the position, but knowing he wouldn't get trained, officially took it upon himself to become competent. The man had gotten dozens of people fired directly and more indirectly by helping less competent managers follow the correct procedure. A certain quantity of work at a certain level of quality was required, which everyone met, yet they had a bottom and top 10 list, and if you were on the bottom 10 list, your job was on the line regardless of if you met the basic requirements. Since there was always a bottom 10 by definition, there were always 10 people on the firing line. This might be vague, but it has to be. Mike's team was a sort of clearinghouse for the bottom 10. We were shifted between shifts and teams for various reasons, but what I quickly learned is that somehow the shift's bottom 10 were all on Mike's team. Now, my performance was consistently in the top 10, so I was safe on that count, but my attendance was low due to health issues, and my attitude was really bad. I also learned that the rest of the team was made up of people who weren't low in performance, but had low attendance and attitude problems, just like me, and we'd all been on the chopping block by managers who failed to follow procedure. In short, Mike was the executioner of our workforce. The most vulnerable to being fired were shifted around to his team so he could succeed where others had failed. Sooner or later, my time came. My health caused a series of absences while I had hospitalizations, and Mike pounced into action. In the space of a year, he made 7 attempts to fire me, and each time I involved HR, who stepped in and protected me. I approached HR to make a case that what was happening was wrong, not just to me, but to everyone. I made the case that the situation of Mike being the executioner created a hostile work environment, and the fact that I had gotten his attempts to fire me thrown out proved that he was not only hostile, but actively toxic. That it was against the law to discriminate on age/disability and a myriad of other arguments. I was told that there was nothing they could do. Mike was untouchable and had the full support of the upper management in our building because he was saving a lot of money in voluntary redundancy payouts by firing the vulnerable. Legally, there might be a case, but it would have to go through a court system and not through HR unless I had an example of him being hostile and abusive. The person I spoke to was very sympathetic, and he suggested I look into some things related to job opportunities that were coming up. He mentioned that many of them were managerial positions because a new type of roaming manager had been introduced. These were very needed and weren't getting much interest. Think substitute teacher, where a manager gets sent all around the country at the drop of a hat. It didn't occur to me instantly, but weeks later as I sat at work listening to Mike talk about his family, it clicked into place and my plan began to take form. Instead of making a complaint, I gave a glowing review and had several others do the same. If we couldn't get the man fired for his actions, we could get him promoted into a job that he couldn't take. The managers in our area were not even being considered for transfers because they lacked the training and qualifications to be managers anywhere else. Our reviews might just push him over the line into getting a promotion, and since roaming managers were being sought, the two should dovetail nicely. We didn't give the reviews to our management, but directly higher up the food chain, way above anyone that ever dealt with our area of the business. Each of us mentioned that Mike had done an amazing job at sorting out problems, etc., had great managerial skills, and an in-depth knowledge of procedure. Then we sat back and waited. A few months went by, nothing happened, and I thought the attempt had failed, but then we came into Mike losing his mind. He was shouting at the shift manager, his boss, about how he wasn't being given a choice. Turns out that the higher management had gotten our reviews, looked into his record, and decided he was the perfect fit for a roaming manager position, and since they were in the process of getting rid of managers in our area, they insisted that Mike be pushed into it. Mike had, of course, tried to refuse the promotion, as was his right, but the higher management had made it a choice of accept the promotion or be demoted back to peon. Mike had a family and couldn't just uproot them whenever the company needed him elsewhere, and a demotion with a pay cut back into the workforce of people who despised him and that were slowly being culled was just as bad. So he asked for voluntary redundancy instead and was accepted. His last day, he went berserk, shouting and swearing about how badly the company had treated him after all he had done. I was unfortunately absent for it, but got a play-by-play and loved every second of it. Since I was told explicitly that I couldn't get him punished or fired, I got him a promotion he couldn't accept instead. And our last story. Pissed apartment resident gets back at very rude receptionist. Backstory. So back in college a few years ago, my coworker lived in an apartment complex. The lady at the front desk was apparently a real piece of work, not friendly, never cutting anyone any slack, extremely unhelpful, and unwilling to be polite. Mind you, she was the face of the apartment complex. It's kinda in the job description to be polite, even when you're effing someone over. And she was the only one who worked there. Let's call her Rachel. The apartment would tape an envelope for the rent check and a newsletter to the apartment door every month. According to my coworker, the newsletter never had any actual pertinent information in it. Recipes, resident meetups, upcoming holidays, etc. Waste of paper, literally never anything important, so he would just throw it out without reading it. There were 3 big things that pissed him off while living there, but he assures me there were many more smaller things that weren't really worth telling me. First strike. His girlfriend would visit quite often, and there was a free parking garage on the property. She would always park there. One day, she came outside and her car had been towed. After visiting the front office, they learned that the apartment had included in the newsletter for the month that they had started using parking passes and that you had to come to the office to pick one up. When he asked why they didn't tape it to the door inside the rent envelopes for the month, Rachel looked at him like he was crazy. She did not offer to help with the towing cost. He tried asking. Nope, $200. Update. He says that in all past cases, when it was actually an important update, they would post an independent flyer with large font on everyone's door, except for the parking pass case for some reason. Second strike, after 10 months of paying rent on time, he was 1 day late, $50 late charge. Yes, it was his fault, but a lot of places will let it go if you've been good in the past. When he went in to ask for some leniency, she shut him down real quick. Third strike. Over New Year's, the hot water in the entire complex was out for 9 days. When he went to the front office to ask for an update / ask if they were offering any sort of rebate for the inconvenience, Rachel said not only no, but hell no. So at this point, apparently, he was fed up. He took one of the newsletters, scanned it into his computer to get the logo and the header/footer, and wrote a letter to all the residents saying they were offering a rebate at the front office for the hot water being out for so long, making sure to emulate the voice and professionalism of the complex's writing, and to be at the office the next day between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. to pick up a check. Printed out 70 copies, recruited a friend, went out at 3 a.m. with hoodies on. They quickly posted them on all the doors. I'm sure Rachel's life was hell the next day, turning down confused and angry residents in a flurry for 2 hours. She even posted a Facebook update on the apartment complex's wall saying that she had the police investigating the fraud and dusting for fingerprints. They have better things to be doing. I don't think I need to tell you this, but he was never caught. P.S. He said that right as he was about to move out. Rachel got fired, and the two polite and friendly girls manned the front office from then on. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.